Thank you for joining us at FutureMoneyTrends.com. I'm here with legendary speculator and founder of Casey Research, Doug. Casey, thanks for joining him.
De nada.
Doug, I'm a dad of 3 small children. I know you're not a father, but you have an ability and a gift to teach people the truth and the right things to do, whether they recognize it or not at the time. And I guess I want to kind of start this interview off of what the things that are most admired by other parents and people and what they teach their kids. So the military, for example, or the police, those are regarded as something that the kids should look up to, that the police are doing the right thing, the military are the good guys. If you go to SeaWorld and watch a Shamu show, they have the whole audience stand up to applaud the troops. How do you teach a child? What is the military to you? What is a police officer to you? How do you teach them this?
Well, to start with, guys that join the police and the military tend to be cut from the same cloth. I speak, incidentally, as somebody that did 4 years at a military boarding school during a time when they were pretty tough places. I'm glad I did, incidentally, because otherwise I was going to go to West Point. And that would have been a gigantic mistake for a number of reasons, but certainly at that time, because that was at the height of the Vietnam War. So I might have wound up going to Vietnam and either doing things to other people or having things done to me that would have been most regrettable for the rest of my life. But getting back to what we were talking about, guys that are want to join either the military or the police, maybe they're influenced by watching too many romantic John Wayne movies, which, corrupt a young psyche and influence it. Or maybe they watch too much television where they see all these cops intelligent and non-corrupt and fighting for good. They're all good cops on television. But the fact of the matter is, guys that join the military and the police generally have an extra Y chromosome to start with, which makes them a little bit dangerous because they're natural predators or inclined that way. And instead of apatheticizing the military, people should realize that the military is really just a heavily armed version of the post office. That's really all it is. It's a dangerous bureaucracy where you have people marching in lockstep, wearing costumes that do what they're told. And that's one of the things that I'm glad I figured out in high school, at military school, is that when you join the military, you're putting yourself completely under the control of people that may be despicable, and you have to follow their orders like a robot. So it's a horrible situation for a free person to put himself in. I understand that if you join the military, you may want the adventure, you may want the interesting training. Everybody loves to shoot guns, I do, blow things up, and this is wonderful, and pretend you're a hero. But the reality is that you're going to wind up doing things that you'll probably regret the rest of your life if something doesn't happen to you that's going to ruin the rest of your life. So, hell, there was even a time just before I got out of college when I had a relapse. I was going to join the French Foreign Legion. And there really is something to be said about the Legion, because at least that's an exotic military. So if you're going to make a mistake, make an exotic mistake. But I'm glad I didn't do that, because a lot of the Legionnaires are, frankly, just hardcore criminals that like wearing uniforms, but they're interesting guys. Anyway, I advise people against that, but then again, I advise kids against going to college. That's a misallocation of both time and money.
Doug, you travel, I don't know, how many countries have you traveled to?
145 is what I figure.
Okay, I don't know how much you observe children, but I'm sure you go into a lot of different homes and see them interacting. It's very common for American children to, at a very young age, to play with action figures militarized action figures that are killing people.
Yeah.
And I never thought about it because it's so normal.
Yeah.
But when my 4-year-old started to do that at a friend's house, I kind of said, you know what? I don't think that's natural for a person to kill other people, especially with that thought. Almost have it as like a game. But of course, you're playing with the U.S. military toys and G.I. Joe. I mean, is this a normal?
You're a good guy.
You're a good guy. Is this normal around the world? Are kids, at very young ages, killing each other, or is this something that's a result of the empire, of living in the empire?
That's a good question. I'll have to observe the play habits of kids in different countries more closely, and I must admit that I haven't done that. But let's retro rock a little bit. And when I was a kid, everybody used to play cops and robbers. We used to play cowboys and Indians. That's completely politically incorrect. I'm sure that mothers would spank their kids if they were playing cowboys and Indians today. We used to shoot each other and fight and roughhouse. Kids aren't allowed to do that anymore today. I don't know. It's funny. As the U.S. government, it's actually a paradox. As the U.S. government has gotten more aggressive and more pernicious, the average kid out there is forced to be less like a kid. And, I'm told, I read this stuff all the time, I think it must be true, that kids can't even draw a picture of a gun anymore,
Yeah.
I mean, hell, when I was a kid, we used to walk around with our BB guns everywhere. When we got in high school, everybody had a rifle and a shotgun. And we used to walk around with I carried a rifle and a pistol on a plane with me as a 17-year-old. And I didn't think twice of it, and neither did anybody else on the plane. So things have changed. Even while the U.S. has gotten more aggressive, the average American is more of a little lamb. It's a paradox.
Do you think you've talked about people not going to college? What about regular school? Do you think it does damage to a person if they go through the conventional public educational system?
Well, schools are basically indoctrination centers where the kind of people that become teachers are generally the wrong kind of people to be teachers. I was actually a 6th grade teacher in Blues Brothers country for a semester, and I felt my fellow teachers at that grade school were an embarrassment. So you don't get the best and brightest as teachers, with very rare exceptions. And what those teachers indoctrinate the kids with are basically what they're told to, because they're not independent thinkers. And the stuff that they're told to indoctrinate them with is antithetical, in many cases, to what a free person, an independent thinker, should learn. So you're corrupting your kid, and you're wasting his time, and you're boring him. I would have been much better off if I'd just been kind of released into the wild where I could follow my nose and learn things instead of picking up all kinds of bad habits from the other young chimpanzees that I was incarcerated with. And I think it's much worse today than it was then. So I'd look for an alternative.
Let's move the topic to money as we wrap it up. The junior mining sector, it's down about 75-80%. Do you think this is going to be one of those times over the next 5 years where people turn $10,000, $50,000 into north of $1 million?
It's happened many times in the past. The junior mining sector, since I've been following it, which I'm shocked to say has been 40 years, cyclically moves up 1,000% as a group, with some individual stocks going up 100 times or 1,000 times in price, and then it drops 95% or even 98% and wipes everything out, and it's very volatile and cyclical. And right now, we're at one of the great cyclical bottoms of all time. Now, there's no guarantees because most of these junior mining companies, they're exploration companies. They're on an Easter egg hunt. There's no guarantee they're going to find the Easter egg. But if you buy the right people running the companies, and you have to learn something about this, actually. You can't use a dartboard approach. Well, you can, but you shouldn't, I don't think. Although I used to believe that. I think it's possible today for somebody, especially with the Fed continuing to create trillions of dollars, there's going to be other bubbles created. And one of the bubbles is very likely to be in mining exploration stocks. I mean, people do need copper and nickel and uranium. I mean, everything in the world is made out of these things. So yeah, we could have a super bubble in these stocks, and it's possible to make 50 to 1 on your money, and that could be life-changing for anybody. So I don't like to give investment advice, even though that's what I'm supposed to do for a living. But I'd say, yeah, this is one of the best times, I think, in modern history to put some money into this particular sector.
If you don't mind me asking you, when you kind of had that game changer for your own life and financially, was it from being a successful author, the newsletter business, or was it from investing?
Well, let me think. I'm trying to think what happened. Before I wrote a book, I made some lucky hits. And in the mining market, I like the mining market because it's the most volatile area of the stock market. It's more volatile than the technology sector, if you can believe that. So I got lucky a few times, and that helped. Like one time, I was buying South African stocks. I could go on about this for hours, but these stocks were yielding 50, 60, 75% in current dividends. I know this is unbelievable, but it's true.
Yeah.
After dividends had been cut a lot. So it was at the bottom, and by the time I sold them at the cyclical top 4 years later, I was getting many times back in dividends what I paid for the stocks. It was incredible. So I had some good luck like that, but I guess my luck, I've made good money with my books. I mean, with The International Man, that was very good and profitable. Crisis Investing was a huge bestseller. Strategic Investing, Simon & Schuster, back in 1982, gave me $800,000, which in today's dollars is more like $3 million.
Yeah.
So that's all helped.
Yeah. I have one last question for you on the gold manipulation. So a lot of people were really upset. I did not get to see your speech in Vancouver, but I did get some people emailing me and saying, hey, they're really upset with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bud Conrad, Eric Sprott, Ed Steer, I mean, these are people you're close with, or I assume you're close with.
Yeah.
Now, is it that you don't believe they're specifically targeting manipulation? Because it seems like everything's manipulated, from down to what we eat to, what we buy and how we retire.
Well, at the upcoming New Orleans investment conference in late October, I'm actually going to have a debate with the guy that runs GATA, which is
Bill or Chris?
Chris.
Okay.
And about this subject, because the time has come to debunk this silly meme once and for all. The first thing that I've got to say, just for our purposes here, is that these people conflate the words manipulation with suppression. And I'm not sure which they mean, and I'm not sure they even know which they mean. Of course, these governments are involved in all these markets, trying to influence prices. They want some prices high, they want some prices low, depending on this and that. And the central banks and governments own gold, so of course they buy and sell it. And of course they'd prefer to see it lower than higher. But actually, they don't really care about gold. They don't believe in it. They think it's a barbarous relic. the idea that they're suppressing the gold price to make it cheap for the Chinese and the Russian central banks and other Oriental central banks to buy it, that seems pretty stupid to me. And how can you say that they're suppressing the price of gold when since 1971 it's run from $35 to $1,900? That's one of the great bull markets in anything in all of history. How are you suppressing the price of gold when a bull market like that's occurred? Same with silver. There are a lot of arguments that I can make about this that actually debunk this suppression meme. And as far as manipulation, I don't know, and I don't care, and I don't think they care either.
I'll leave the debate for October. I'll probably head out there to the New Orleans conference.
Yeah,
the Brian Lending one.
Yeah.
All right. Doug, you've been very generous with your time.
Well, thanks. One more thing. It's funny that people get angry with me for not believing. It's like this is a religion. This meme has turned into a religious thing, which has about as much in the way of evidence. Actually, I haven't read all the evidence these guys put up. It's not evidence, it's assertions. It's like when you contradict religious doctrine and you're a heretic, people get emotionally angry at you. How can you get emotional about this? This is just... Anyway, I'm sorry, I had to add that in there because just remarking on the fact that you said people got angry at me for not being a believer.
Yeah. Well, actually, a lot of sites cover our work, and that's some of the people emailed me to let me know, like, that's it, man. If you post anything with Katusa or Casey,
yeah, these are obviously members of the enemy members of the enemy camp.
Yeah.
They're not believers. I know. It's really further proof that there is no hope for this worthless little planet.
Well, look, regardless of if someone believes it or not, it's nice to see that, you have people like Miles Franklin in here and one of your own writers, Ed Steer. So it's not as if you can't have a disagreement with people and still work very happily with them.
Right. In the end, the truth will come out. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, nobody knows what the facts are. This is it's just a question of reasoning, and you believe what you want. But so many people take this as religious doctrine. That's what surprises me and disappoints me.
All right, Doug Casey of Casey Research. We're at the Casey Summit in San Antonio.